Well, it was supposed to be a straight up scary movie, but the problem with The Exorcist was way too much of a drama.
So they say not to think about that kind of stuff while you're writing. You want it to be what's best for the characters and for the story first. I don't historically love jump scares. I think,
big
that
trilogy, and that
they have to be used just right.
It's March 12th, 2026. This coming Friday was the day first proposed as the release date for Mike Flanagan's untitled Exorcist film. Had David Gordon Green's Believer been more successful, his second film in the initial trilogy could have been released last year. According to the director, Deceiver would have continued the story following Ann Dowd's character somewhere in Europe. Obviously, that didn't happen. Believer had a poor reception and Green left the project shortly after in January 2024. Deceiver was then removed from the studio's release schedule, and Blumhouse had to go back to the drawing board. By May 2024, the public would come to learn that Mike Flanagan was going to direct the next Exorcist movie. A month later, the release date had been revealed for Flanagan's radical new take. That would be tomorrow. It's been over a year since my last video regarding this upcoming Exorcist film. Things have been fairly stagnant since then, until recently. Or should I say, the end of 2025, when suddenly, Flanagan's Exorcist project returned to media outlets. So why are we still waiting? Let's review where my previous video left off. In October 2024, at the New York City Comic-Con, Mike Flanagan shared that there was no point in remaking the original Exorcist. You had to make something new. It's not a retread, it's not a remake, it's not an update. During the con, Flanagan's Carrie was announced, an 8-episode adaptation for Amazon Prime. If these two projects weren't enough, keep in mind Flanagan had his adaptation of The Dark Tower lingering in the background since late 2022, so there was a lot going on. January 2025, the year started out with Flanagan responding to a question on Blue Sky. A fan asked if there were any projects in the works. He answered, "Our unique takes on both The Exorcist and Carrie are feeling surprisingly timely. That may have been, but the Carrie project seemed to be taking precedence." Casting for this new Stephen King miniseries began as early as April and continued into June. June was not only the month that the principal shooting for Carrie would begin in Vancouver, but Exorcist fans found out that they were going to have to wait a little longer for the next installment. Flanagan responded to a fan on Tumblr regarding the Exorcist film being able to make its reported release date. "Production hasn't started," he wrote. "We need to finish Carrie first. No way it's coming out next March. Nothing to worry about though." It wouldn't take long before Universal removed Flanagan's Exorcist from the studio's 2026 calendar. Why take so many projects on in the first place? There were no new updates during the summer, outside the rumors. Supposedly, Flanagan reached out to Angelina Jolie to star as the lead, and it was rumored that Universal reached out to Charlize Theron. There was even a purported story that Flanagan had been clashing with the studio. He wanted to cast his wife in the new Exorcist film as the lead, something that the studio was not willing to accommodate. Kate Siegel had already been in several of her husband's films, as well as other actors in the Flanafam, a nickname for his frequent collaborators. Flanagan would share this in his podcast. "One of the reasons I work with the same actors again and again and again is because I don't have to be scared of them," he said. "So that takes some of the anxiety out. But every time I have somebody new on set, I'm freaked out, and I don't know what to say to them and how to talk to them." I had to take this report with a grain of salt, as I was unable to verify the story from the podcast it was sourced from. The Carrie miniseries had wrapped up its filming around October 25th, and then suddenly the wind changed direction. The lull was soon to be over. By mid-November, Flanagan spoke at the Motor City Comic-Con, where he teased the idea of how he wanted to cast Rebecca Ferguson, Dr. Sleep's Rose the Hat, in the new film. "I can't give away the name of the character," he said, "but when I first got The Exorcist, she was one of my first phone calls. Ferguson was said to have been working on other projects. The first actress cast was not to be her, nor was it anyone Flanagan had worked with before." A week later, social media blew up with the news that Scarlett Johansson was going to star in the new Exorcist film. Scarlett Johansson, a two-time Oscar nominee and the highest-grossing female star in movie history. Her last film, Jurassic World Rebirth, grossed over $869 million worldwide. Was she chosen by Flanagan or Universal to be the lead? Was Universal looking to hedge their bets? Around this time, the fake trailers and poster art began to pop up. Flanagan had this to say on Blue Sky: "I learned long ago never to try to predict what the fans will or won't argue about. Everybody needs to relax. Frankly, I just saw a whole chain of people foaming at the mouth over fan-made AI slop posters for The Exorcist. But yeah, this isn't a retread. The differences start page 1. The following month, it was revealed that Flanagan's project is titled The Exorcist Martyrs. It is not made clear if this was merely a working title. In addition, it's reported that Johansson would play a small-town rookie detective drawn into a case involving what the internal synopsis calls inconceivable darkness. It's difficult to confirm the plot to be true, as only a few sites reported this information, and the majority reported this story to be under wraps. The next to join the cast lineup was Hamnet star 12-year-old Jacoby Jupe. Many believe Jacoby will portray Johansson's son in the film. In real life, his mother is actress Katie Kavanaugh, and his older brother, actor Noah Jupe. Will Jacoby be the next possessed child in the franchise? January 2026, 2 months ago, Universal's Exorcist film was billed as a radical redo, an all-new story in the Exorcist universe, unrelated to the previous Blumhouse film, The Exorcist Believer, and it was given a new release date, March 12, 2027. Another Oscar nominee would join the cast later that month, acclaimed American actress Diane Lane. February brought Chiwetel Ejiofor and Lawrence Fishburne into the project. Again, both Oscar nominees. Ejiofor had worked with Flanagan before, starring in Life with Chuck. Fishburne may be best remembered as Morpheus in the Matrix films, as well as the Bowery King in the John Wick series. Then on the first week of this month, the cast wave hit. Not only were Sasha Calle and John Leguizamo announced, but 11 longtime collaborators, members of Flanagan's Flana fam, including his wife, Kate Siegel. Principal photography had commenced last week in New York City, which brings us to present day of this post, March 12, 2026. So what do we know so far? It sounds like the movie is on track. Last year the big focus was on the Carrie series, but it seems like an exuberant amount of effort has fallen upon this project. From what I've read, shooting dates were to run from February to May. No telling if there are any additional film locations, and I would believe they'd wrap up closer to June. It's difficult to say if Flanagan's newly announced adaptation of Stephen King's The Mist will interfere with The Exorcist's momentum. I would hope that a teaser trailer will release in October, possibly when Other Mommy is in theaters, and maybe an official trailer by the time Violent Night 2 premieres in early December. Regarding the cast, I kinda got the impression that Flanagan was calling and collecting actors that he'd worked with before well ahead of time, but said nothing of it. Universal may have found it necessary to announce their lead first and foremost. It had been reported that Universal Pictures and Blumhouse gave Flanagan carte blanche, or total creative freedom over the project, but maybe not over the cast. Regarding the purported story from last September, perhaps there was some truth to Flanagan clashing with the studio on his choice for lead role. And again, perhaps, Universal may have wanted a more influential name to drive this film. It's possible that The Exorcist Martyrs is merely a working title for an undisclosed one. So many media outlets have embraced simply The Exorcist over the title released last year, almost insinuating that Flanagan's film is a remake. If the Martyrs title is an unofficial title, it's possible that the rookie detective synopsis is a ruse as well. And if Flanagan really has total creative freedom, let's hope that the studio doesn't force his hand with any mandates. For example, a film that is influenced by a second screen viewing mandate can dumb down both the dialogue and plot, while its contents is made to be louder and more engaging, in short bursts to keep or recapture the audience attention. Show don't tell becomes show and tell. Over-explain the plot so a distracted audience doesn't have to pay attention to know what's going on.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's something called second screen viewing, right? So it's a directive that's being handed out by big studios to filmmakers, which means that you have to acknowledge that people are on their phones the whole time they're watching telly, so you have to simplify the plot so that they'll be able to follow along while they're browsing on their phone. So that's why you'll notice now in random, like in TV shows, even with good actors, they're saying really obvious things about what's happening. They're laying out the entire plot line and all of their emotions and motivations. Like the language has become really bait and on the nose, and that's because they're being told, the writers, that they have to write in a way that someone can carry on with doom scrolling or shopping online while following it in the background. So nothing can be too complex, nothing can be too high end. It has to be like we are purposefully dumbing down content, and that is leading to a less nuanced, less interesting, less thoughtful society.
Honestly, I would like to know that this film respects the canon. If it's set in the original film's universe, then it should fit in that universe. I would like to see this film succeed without having to bend a knee, even though success may require it. I guess we will find out next year. Thanks for watching.